glad you're all here. Just get loud for the IdeoCast broadcast right now. Let's see if we get a sound test. Are you guys alive out there tonight? Good. That's awesome. Because last week we were snowed in. Boy, I tell you, that was bad stuff. I have never canceled a ground zero before. In fact, even when I had cancer, I didn't cancel. I didn't do a cancer cancel. I didn't do that. But hell, that snowflake that fell over Troutdale, I had to stay home. I couldn't handle it. So, yeah, that's the first time I've ever done something like that. So hopefully we won't run into that again. Hey, a few announcements I want to make for you. First of all, New Year's Eve at Duff's Garage. That's at about Southeast 7th and Clay Street. Across the bridge and over in the area here, there's a place called Duff's Garage. There's going to be a Roy Orbison tribute band and some other entertainment, and then at about 11 o'clock at night, the Wannabe 52s are going to be playing. Now that's my band, and I want you all to be there. So it's going to be at Duff's Garage. Once again, that's Southeast 7th and Clay. And Wannabe B-52s are going to be there. There's going to be a tribute band for Roy Orbison. And the tickets are $10, and that includes your champagne at the end of the night. So please, if you want to come out and hang with me, I'd love it, because we want to pack the place and show them, you know, what the Wannabe 52s are up to and what they. We did our show here at Dante's, our debut, and it was on that Monday Halloween and Monday before Halloween, and it was really successful. So we're very happy we're going to do this again. Tonight's show is about the future, and I always I have a lot of time, believe me, to be reading all week long, because that's all you do when you're snowed in, is you sit around and you read. And I read a lot this past week. Christmas wasn't spent just doing presents and everything else. It was spent on the internet, hovered over a computer, just trying to figure out what's going on in the world. So what you're going to be seeing is you're going to see a little bit of how Clyde connects the dots when his mind is on snow. In 2008, it seemed that most of the shows here at Ground Zero that we dealt with we were talking about the encroaching police state and the militarized police state. There were a lot of reasons why we covered this topic, and it was because it was becoming more and more apparent that this is what was happening in the United States. And for no reason. We don't know why the police state seems to be encroaching. People say it's because of a fear of terrorism. However, terrorism has not really, the terrorism events that we're used to have not really reared their heads since 9/11. And thank God, with the new year coming, we'll still hear about it occasionally, but hopefully we can put that to rest. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But in the meantime, the whole idea, we had black helicopters in Portland. How many people remember the black helicopter night by applause? There were black helicopters, and this isn't some paranoid delusion, okay? Real black helicopters doing real maneuvers and doing real drills right here in Portland. People on the streets crying because they're thinking there's some sort of invasion going on, okay? Something's happening. They don't know what it is. We were shocked. In fact, my friend Keith was snapping pictures near my house as they were flying over the Ross Island Bridge, and as they were going to the east side, and they were maneuvering over the poor areas of Portland and landing near the banks. We made the conclusion that perhaps what this was is there was going to be some sort of a situation with the economy. The banks were going to go stale, people were going to rebel, and bam, you have your police state. Well, it's not happening abruptly, okay? It's kind of increasing slowly. It's inching its way in, okay? And you may not see it, unless you're pulled over by a police officer and he's wearing a black outfit that kind of looks like something from the Stasi or from the Nazi era. All Portland police officers wear black here, and they wear the utility belts, and they have the gun sidearm, and they look really scary. Well, you don't know about the police state until you've experienced it, and you don't know about the subtleties. You don't know about the propaganda that's reaching in and grabbing people. In fact, propaganda that starts with your children as well, and your grandchildren. Propaganda they're spewing forth as they're getting the child ready to live under the gun, which is what's going on. In fact, schools are doing that now. And they're preparing the children for this type of activity. It's really sick, actually. The propaganda of the police state is really sick, and it is inching its way in. Now, we here at Ground Zero were saying, well, maybe it would be a big terrorist event. No terrorist event has happened that we can talk about of any great significance. People talking about assassination attempts on Obama. Hell, there have been like 3 or 4 that we know of, right? And I can get up here and say, well, Obama's going to be assassinated. Yeah. I mean, you know, chances are, yes, some asshole's going to want to pop a cork cap into it. But no, I'm not going to talk about that tonight. But what I am going to do is I'm going to demonstrate how one piece of propaganda can get my mind going. I reached a point of paranoia as I was sitting in my girlfriend's house near Rocky Butte. I was stuck contemplating a story that I had read it was on the internet, and I also saw it on the newspaper. How many people are familiar with that old story? First it was the weather department, the NOAA, weather, that would track Santa. Then all of a sudden NORAD started tracking Santa around Christmas time. Anybody familiar with that whole NORAD business by the way? Yeah. NORAD was going to track Santa Claus. Now I know that goes on, but what I read raised my eyebrow and it got me paying attention to how propaganda sneaks in. Now, forget tracking missiles and attacks. This is from an article. It says, NORAD Santa Tracker helps you find jolly old St. Nick. It says, forget tracking missiles and attacks from the Soviets' axis of evil. NORAD, the North American Aerospace Defense Command, will once again be tracking Santa's flight across the world with the Santa Tracker. From the website it states, NORAD uses 4 high-tech systems to track Santa: radar, satellites, Santa cams, and fighter jets. It reads just like a military psychological propaganda piece. Santa Claus needs protection from the military, and NORAD's going to be tracking him with surveillance cameras and satellites. Listen, kids, Santa's not the only one who knows when you've been sleeping, who knows when you're awake. Your government does too. Because they have satellites, and they have cameras, and they have fighter jets. Okay? Now, I took a look at the cams that they said they had of Santa, and there was some stupid-ass, CGI thing of Santa going over France and over Iraq and over all these other places. And I just thought, it was being narrated by some military guy. That's so sweet. Have some guy in a military outfit with his sidearm basically telling you 'twas the night before Christmas and all through the house. And that's exactly how it felt to me. It was kind of creepy, kind of eerie, kind of like, comrade, 'twas the night before Christmas and all through the house, you're on state radio. It was the same damn thing. Okay? But it's the kids, okay? No one else is going to be paying attention to this, except stupid people like me who read everything they see. And wonder, what the fuck? Because that's exactly what I was wondering when I saw that, and it just gave me the willies that Santa Claus was being used as a tool. See, the push of an armed escort into Santa's itinerary, I thought, was a bit much. It actually sounded like a programming mechanism taken right out of the Psychological Operations Manual, which gives instructions on how soldiers and armed personnel can befriend children in order to recruit them later in life. That's a tactic in the psychological manual that I have. They do it with children in other countries too. What happens is they organize basketball games. They teach kids how to play basketball. So the military guys are playing basketball. And then what happens? The soldier gives the child a basketball, and on the basketball it says, made in the USA. So this child realizes, I have made friends with the military guy. He will do nothing to harm me. And I'm not saying that military personnel do things to harm people, but I am saying that if you want to win someone's favor, you do things like this. It's simple psychological operations. So if they take Santa Claus and they have him tracked by NORAD, okay, and they have these F-18s or F-15s following him, kids are going, cool. I want to be that way. I want to be the guy that flies that big jet and helps Santa Claus. But see, what I find most ironic, and was just really kind of sickening, is that while Santa gets an armed escort, well, NORAD decides it's okay to have the jets following Santa Claus. It's interesting that NORAD told the planes to kind of stand down when we were being attacked here. See, we don't think about that, but kids think about that. Kids think, well, everything's hunky-dory because Santa's being protected, but adults know it's all fantasy. Just like 9/11 was a fantasy. It was a myth. The myth of 9/11. The reality of 9/11 still needs to be somehow discovered and found, but it won't be because we have too many people spinning yarns of conspiracy theory and not enough fact to go with that theory, and too many people not wanting to cut the fat and realize that yes, 85% of the United States believe that 9/11 was an inside job. Yes, they don't do anything about it. They continue to roll over and play dead as their government continues to allow the militarized police state to take hold in their homeland. And I know that's silly to say, well, they told the planes to stand down at NATO, but at NORAD, but yet they're going to. But it's a silly metaphor that I think has a little bit of weight. Calling the Russians the Soviets, also in an article that was released a couple days ago, I find very interesting, don't you? They called the Russians the Soviets. And they put that axis of evil right next to it. NORAD no longer will be looking at the Soviets and the axis of evil. They're going to be protecting Santa Claus. Who the hell remembers that the Soviet Union was a Cold War term? Kids don't, because kids don't study history when they're young enough to believe in Santa Claus. So already we have a generation of children using the word Soviet. I hope nobody else is using it. Soviet. And you know, if you take a look at the news now, you know, you realize that it's an arcane term for what is to come. You take a look at they're marching the rockets again in the squares, and they're marching the tanks again in the squares. They're preparing for war. With who? Anyone's guess. We have talked about it here at the Ground Zero Lounge, haven't we? That all the Cold War barons are out and about, and they're getting ready to go back and do their job again. To finish off what they didn't accomplish a long time ago. Just like Bush didn't accomplish his Gulf War, so he had his son do it for him many generations later. Now we have a Cold War that needs to be won. We need that scorched earth policy to take hold now. We need to destroy everything in order to rebuild it and make it 10 times better. That's the philosophy of these sons of bitches that are in power now. And I'm not just talking about the Republicans, I'm talking about the whole fucking lot of them. Okay? If you think this is going to be a red state, blue state conversation, no, it's not. It's the state versus you, and I've said that many times. Some of the most popular toys and games this Christmas were all military and martial law themed. Halo 3, martial law and military taking over after a nuclear holocaust. And then we take a look at another game, one that even frightens me more. It's called End War. Tom Clancy's End War. Anybody familiar with that game by applause? None? Nobody? Well, here's the thing about End War, okay? End War by Tom Clancy is especially frightening to me because the subject matter is this. The game is about a fictional super crisis World War III scenario led by renewed Russian-American tensions, as well as European Union and Middle Eastern conflicts resulted in widespread nuclear war and massive casualties worldwide. The game, of course, is fiction. However, Clancy has in the past written fiction that has eerily come to pass. For example, Tom Clancy produced a game back in, I believe it was 2001. The game was called Ghost Recon, okay? The game does this, okay? The game has a preview that I looked at and gave me the willies. It says, Ghost Recon begins in April 2008 with civil unrest in Russia. Ultra-nationalists have seized power in Russia with plans to rebuild the Soviet Union. Their first step is a clandestine support of the rebel factions in Georgia and the Baltic states. This is where the ghosts come in, to silence the invasion. armed with some of the most advanced weaponry in the world. The soldiers of the Ghost Recon are covertly inserted into the area of operations and given specific missions to curtail their rebel actions and overthrow their benefactors. How many people remember what happened on August 8th, 2008? The date, 888. Do we have to go? A few people do? Yeah. What happened? Well, looks like Mr. Clancy was right. Civil unrest in Russia began in August of 2008. U.S. clandestine support of rebel factions in Georgia were involved. The game specifically cited Ossetia in 2008. And where did the war take place? Georgia, Ossetia, right? All that area. The U.S. clandestine forces or ghosts are deployed in Ossetia to silence the rebellion. U.S. ghosts battle South Ossetian rebel forces from the north of Georgia. The Russian government eventually sends in their army to aid the South Ossetian rebels. It's almost as if it was a page taken right out of history, done back in 2001. Now, how is it that Tom Clancy was so into this and knew? He doesn't have a security clearance that we know of. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, when he uses the term ghosts, that's the complete deniability. I mean, I'm convinced myself that there were certainly U.S. forces in there doing ghost-like activities that we've never heard of in that situation, you know. And also, you know, there's the propaganda stuff. There's a new TV show that I just saw advertised the other day. It's called Homeland Security USA.
Oh, isn't that following the lives of people who work in the Homeland Security departments?
Apparently.
Yeah, I mean, okay, here's the deal. Okay, remember I was talking about the police state? And I was talking about how, take a look at what you watch on television, you can see whether or not you live in a police state or state TV is basically taken over. Well, this is how. That is what Bob had pointed out. It's not enough that we have police television dramas, but we have people now working for the Department of Homeland Security. And we're following the basically misadventures of them. Who gives a shit? What, are we going to be watching them frisk people in the airport? I guess that could be kind of dirty, you really think about it, you know. Somebody doing an outboard motor to someone's breast, I can see that being interesting. But no, this is the type of stuff you're going to be watching on television because they're feeding you the idea that you've got to be a part of this militarized police state bullshit because of tensions. And it's funny because, you know, you also take a look at another one called Ghost Recon Advantage Warfighter or Advanced Warfighter. This is where there's a fictitious captain by the name of Scott Mitchell who commands the fictitious elite Ghost Recon team again in an attempt to protect the U.S. and Mexican presidents, recover stolen U.S. technology, and battle the rebellious Mexican forces. In the game, there is a summit held involving the leaders of the United States, Canada, and Mexico. At the summit, all three leaders agree on a proposed North American Joint Security Agreement, described in the video as NAJSA. There's a trailer in which you see them say, this policy is a historic new policy designed to share the policing responsibilities along the borders of these three countries and hopefully curtail the illegal immigration and movement of drugs and weapons and terrorists in the hemisphere as part of this historic agreement. Boy, isn't that weird, because there's a little something that they basically ratified in 2008 that they proposed a while ago. It's called the Security and Prosperity Partnership of North America, or in some people's terms, the North American Free Trade, or the North American Union. Okay? It's the slow, gradual concept of uniting all three countries. It's really weird that this is happening because they give, in fact, the Clancy game actually says that it was to increase security and enhance prosperity among the United States, Canada, and Mexico. That was the reason why they organized this group of people, for the very same reason. Now, are we living a video game scenario here? Are they writing this as a script? I mean, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? I've talked about the blueprint before, the template, if you will, or the template, depending on where you're raised. I wonder if there is one. And this conditioning process is here to condition the young people to be ready to fight. Think about it. Most video games are bought, sold, and operated by young people. Santa Claus is not younger. We move up to the games now you're getting for Christmas. The games that people play while they're sitting there being mesmerized by a television screen. Okay? So this is why I think the future is kind of creepy when you start seeing games like Endwar and Halo 3. They all deal with nuclear holocausts. They all deal with a nuclear conflagration where millions of people die. Millions of people die. And we're looking now at Israel and Hamas fighting it out. Israel's got nukes. We hear about all these other countries in the Middle East getting ready to fight it out. They've got nukes. So a nuclear conflagration is something that can be considered as something that can be very well a reality within the next year, 2 years, maybe even 3 years. A lot sooner than we think, huh? Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's getting that close. I mean, waking up Christmas and hearing about the whole Hamas-Israeli deal, I was shocked. I'm like, going, wow. You know, I didn't know anything about rockets being fired or dynamite being thrown at the Israelis and the Israelis lighting the fuse and throwing it back at the damn Palestinians. I didn't hear anything about that. Not at all. No. Some people doubt that. Tom Clancy actually eerily foretold the events of 9/11 in the book Debt of Honor. He actually had a situation where a plane actually slams into an American landmark, same as what we see in 9/11, which I find interesting. And the only thing I could find about him that maybe even get him close to intelligence or intelligence operations is that he is married to the niece of Colin Powell. So I don't know, maybe she talks, maybe she does pillow talk or something. Anyway, go ahead.
If it's the one I'm thinking about, not only did it hit a landmark, it hit Congress and took out both the legislative and executive branches, except for Jack Ryan, who just happened to be underground after having been sworn in as vice president.
Exactly.
So it did a good deal more than just debase something pretty. It was even better than 9/11.
Ooh, this is going to get better because some of the things I have found, the stories surrounding. Thank you for that, Sarah. Because yeah, Debt of Honor talks about the possibility of you crash a plane into something, but then we have a terrorist attack where Congress is gone. You have a terrorist attack where the whole cabinets are gone, everything's taken out. And what do you do then? You have to somehow pass the keys of power to someone, and that's when something really, really terrible can happen. And what's really interesting, some of the news stories I've uncovered that I'm going to be sharing with you tonight actually put us in a position where we wonder, what is going on. Now, before we get into the reality, I want to get into the mysticism here. 9/11, as we're talking about 9/11, we've now reached something that's known as the noon year, or the year of the end. 2009, 9 means no, negative, out, gone, totally flat. 9. 2009 is the end before the decade, and it's the 9th year in sequence for the millennium. 2 plus 9 equals 11, 2009. 2 plus 9 equals 11. Now in numerology, when you do forecasts, you reduce the numbers to a single digit, except when they are master numbers, and 11 is a master number, as is 22, 33, 44, 35. Master numbers you don't reduce down, okay? This means that the number 11 remains as the new beginning, and the 9 once again means that there is an end awaiting. Magicians and occultists are seeing once again the shadowy 9/11 combinations for 2009. I find that interesting, because you take a look at that, yes, 9 plus 2 is 11, and it is the 9th year. So everybody can play with that and say it's a 9/11 time, and there's going to be a lot of strange things going on. The 9 means chaos, 11 though means that there will be plenty of new beginnings and new opportunities. So don't let the 9 scare you. The 11 is there to remind you that someone else's loss is your gain. If someone drops the ball, then by God, you pick it up and hit that goalpost. Don't sit around and wait for someone else to do it for you. You do it. It's the only way you're going to survive in 2009, because everybody's going to be around you pretty much equally the playing field as people lose jobs and the economy goes down the hill. A lot worse than it is now, okay? So your best bet is to group with people, network, and get to know your neighbors, because they're the ones that are going to save you in the end, and your family. It's always that way when shit like that goes down. So the 9 and the 11. The 11 is the beginning, the 9 is the chaos. The number 11 has been linked to mystery and power since ancient times. All forms of the number and the numerological researchers and studies, including this, they say that the 11 and the derivatives of 11, 22, 33, 44, 55, 66, etc. are all magical numbers with power. They're master numbers. You need to be aware of the number 11, and you need to be aware of the number 9 and how it fits in dates, numbers, and times in this next year, because there's going to be a whole hell of a lot of coincidental bullshit that's going to go down. We're all going to have a heyday with them. Okay? For example, I already went ahead and decided that I'd play a game here. I decided that I'd take a look at the 11 synchronicities for 2009. In 2009, the 111th Congress of the United States will commence. That's pretty coincidental. Another 11, okay? 2009, 9/11, 111, Congress of the United States will commence. Also, here's a fun one. Barack Obama. There are 11 letters in his name. His first name and last name. And here's another one. His first and last names total 5 vowels and 6 consonants. 5 plus 6 is 11. Yeah, you're laughing, but hell, it's fucking fun to do this shit. I'll tell you. I stay up nights figuring this shit out. I do. Yeah. And I'm proud as hell to say that I do. Anyway. Because it's fucking entertaining. It's interesting to see this shit. Here's another one. Barack Obama was born August 4th, 1961. You add the numbers up, 841961, it equals 29. 2 plus 9 is 11. And he's 45, which makes him 9 again, or something. No, I don't know. Is that what it is? He's 45? No, he's 40, 47? What is he, 46? I can't count. I don't know. Math is not my game. Numbers are fun. If you notice, the give a fuck meter is like kind of down there, right? It's like, you know, it may not register high in your concern meter for this stuff, and you may think it's kind of crazy, but think about this. Numerological anomalies always lead to some very interesting happenings. Now, Obama seems to have these numbers, and the alchemists are putting their hopes in the numerical significance of the 11. The 9, however, remember, is the number to look out for. While the 11 is significant of the new beginning, the 9 in the year is a counterbalance, making 2009 a year of some completely chaotic happenings. Weird shit's going to happen in 2009. I know that sounds very vague, but it feels like it's going to be. Events that will abruptly change the way you think and even change your way of life in the future. Look for the 9 and 2 combinations. This is a numeric signature for the year. 2009, 9229, all add up to 11. What I mean by chaos and strangeness going on, things are going to come and they're going to go just as fast as they came. That's what the year holds. Wars are going to be done quickly, and with, you know, the new wars are going to happen, they're not going to happen, they're going to happen, it's going to be bouncing back and forth. You're not going to know who's at war with who. Why? Because that's how they want it. They don't want you to be able to know. They just want to know that the war is continuous. It's kind of like a 1984 thing. Now, here's an example. Let's take the date February 9, 2009. Now, that'd be a real funny question to play with, the 2 9s, the 9s, and the 2s, because this date has some interesting significance. I'm going to point it out to you. I just thought I'd bring this out, pull this out. Let's call this, for lack of a better word, the day hell freezes over, okay? Let's say it's February 2nd, 2929. We got this going on. Ready? Move it down, and here we go. On February 9th, 2009, the following things are going to happen. There's going to be a lunar eclipse that will take place. It's the first of the 4 penumbral lunar eclipses in 2009. It's 11 days after the inauguration and 9 days into February. It is also the minor Jewish holiday of Tu B'Shvat. It is a celebration of trees, and traditionally it's a day to plant acorns. Yeah, it's a day to plant acorns. Okay? And the acorn crop, if you remember coming to the show a while ago, the acorn crop has virtually disappeared in some parts of the country. So what are they going to be planting? Almonds. I heard about this. They're going to be planting almonds instead of acorns. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm confused. I thought the inauguration was on January 20th.
It is.
And 11 days after January 20th would not be February 9th.
I didn't say that.
Okay, could you please...
I said 9 days after the inauguration. Wait, no. 11 days after the inauguration and 9 days into February.
11 days after the inauguration.
And 9 days into February. Count it out. You'll figure it out. Go home and count it out. That's what it's there for.
What? Oh, you mean you're adding those together?
No, I'm not. I said it's 11 days after the inauguration and 9 days into February.
The 31st of July, of January, 31st of January. That's 11 days after the inauguration.
Right, and then 9 days into February.
Yeah, and?
That's how long you'll be president if something goes down. It's just a way to do the numbers. I didn't add them up. I said it's 11 days out, 9 days into February.
God, I'm glad you got that taken.
Yeah. Once again, it's just fun, okay?
I don't get it.
Well, if you go home and figure it out, you will get it.
I don't get it now, I won't get it then.
Okay, fine. It's okay. Not everybody has to get it. That's what it goes. I was saying that the acorns crop is dying off, and I made that statement a couple weeks ago, and it still is. It's forcing squirrels now to go into dumps to eat. They're eating diseased foods and diseased meats, which of course is not good because that also indicates that there may be some plagues on the horizon because, you know, these animals, these vermin pass diseases to each other. Ebola and Black Plague. Okay? So those are some things you need to look at. This is an article about Ebola now being discovered in the Middle East. And they're constantly discovering these new diseases, and they actually are once again playing with the flu virus. So that's something you need to think about. And if that's not bad enough, they want to also scare you and tell you that the threat assessment is reminding you, this is what's really hilarious, I read this. Threat assessments remind us that while terrorist events like 9/11 are rare, there is a threat of biological or nuclear attack on the U.S. within 5 years. However, the fine print says that it is highly unlikely that Al-Qaeda can do it because they can't obtain materials to carry out terrorist events like these on a grand scale. What? Al-Qaeda can't commit terrorist attacks because they don't have enough money to pull off big events? Wow, where was I on 9/11? Oh yeah, I was listening to Tom Clancy telling me about what's going on because he wrote about it. Notice it says Tom Clancy, author. For the past 8 years, you know, we've been told that Al-Qaeda or the Taliban or whichever terrorist group is out there is responsible for carrying out these big terror attacks. But now they can't because they don't have the money. So if anything happens, who are we going to blame? Who is going to be responsible? You never guess who's going to be capable of committing such acts of terror, according to authorities. Here it comes. You! The United States! You are the ones that are going to be committing the acts of terror. Homegrown terrorism. They're preparing to get you. They're preparing for civil unrest. They will act on civil unrest. And that's what they're preparing for. They're preparing for you to basically snap and take people out. And here's what they're going to get you with. They have just created something called the pain ray gun. They are going to be utilizing a new laser gun, a new microwave laser gun called a pain ray gun that they will point at you and you will fall to the ground because you're hot. There's something called the active denial system. It's something we talked about at the beginning of the year. The active denial system is what they're using on Iraqi terrorists. It takes less than 3 seconds to disable a person with this ray gun. It actually burns your skin. And not only that, but, here we go. You want to see this? Here we go. The active denial system, they bring a truck into the area. It operates about 93 gigahertz and can send out a beam from a very long distance and carefully hits the pain receptors in the first layer of the skin. It only takes a burst of 3 seconds and you're down. They've already tested this in Iraq, as I said. It's already been in Iraq. They're testing it now. What did Charlton Heston say? He says, you can remove from my cold dead hand my gun. How about your microwave scorched hand? Right? You pull a gun on a cop and he has one of those denial pain guns or whatever, and boy, I'll tell you, you won't be wanting to bring a gun to a laser fight. You're going to lose. So to hell with the idea of you being able to pack a weapon, they're going to be able to disarm you and take it away from you by just firing a pain receptor at you. This is not science fiction, this is reality, and they're getting ready to implement these things next year. Next year. Ray guns on soldiers, ray guns on police officers. I think they're going to get rid of the taser. I think the taser basically has gotten a bad rap, and I think it's going to be not invited next year. But you most certainly are going to get ready for the pain-inflicted burn gun, or whatever it is. They're also talking about balkanizing the United States in case of an emergency. That means they're going to be separating Pacific Redneckistan and the new American Republic. Actually, they're considering this because the chaos that would ensue if something horribly devastating happened in the country would be hard because they're not going to be able to control 300 million people at once. They're not going to be able to control 300 million people in 50 states at once, so they're going to have one group or one commander or one commandant or whatever run each prison camp. That's how it works. This has been considered, and it is going to be implemented if something goes down. Go ahead.
Well, right here in the Portland area, I was watching some of the snow coverage last week in Gresham, which was hit pretty hard. And of course the news was covering, the police helping people out, but there was a guy out there, a police officer, in full getup with an M16 standing in the snow, and I was wondering, why does he have an M16 in the snow? It made no sense.
That doesn't make sense, no. He's probably hunting something, obviously. But yeah, balkanizing, it's been talked about. Also, under President Obama, the Homeland Security Department will soon begin collecting digital fingerprints and photographs from lawful permanent residents of the United States and people seeking to enter the country on an immigration or visa or refugees. Engineers now are also developing a computerized surveillance system that, when completed, will attempt to recognize whether a person on the street is acting suspiciously or appears to be lost. This will be a system designed using signal-based and video surveillance systems. The system will use RFID chip implant technology. They are going to use it. You'll probably voluntarily go and get your chip put in if that's what you want. It helps you get what you need. It also saves your children. They're going to tell you, put one in your kid and fingerprint him. We'll take his DNA and have a DNA bank of your child. This is what's happening. And you can believe it's good, you believe it's bad. All I can say is it's pretty fucking peculiar that they're doing this shit. It's what we were talking about many weeks ago, many months ago here at the Ground Zero Lounge. How many people are well aware of the new tax on mileage? By applause. No one? Someone? Yeah, he's still trying. Let me tell you something about Mr. Kulingoski. He thinks we're fucking stupid. Okay? They want to put GPS systems required on all cars so they can monitor your mileage. Mr. Kulingoski, you don't need to track my whereabouts. I have a fucking odometer in my car. That does measure how many miles I go. Okay? I guess people are afraid that they're going to be like backing over some cinder block and basically reversing the mileage. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, technically, yeah, that was argued to some extent on FARC, and I guess the answer to the odometer argument is that they don't want to be taxing you for distances you travel outside of Oregon. The odometer can't tell when you're outside of Oregon. That's their excuse to put a GPS to tell whether you're in Oregon or not. But of course, we would never invade your privacy with this. It's made so we can't invade your privacy with this.
Yeah, just like digital television. Yeah, that's another. Yeah, it does invade your privacy, and that's why they want to do it. I'm sure we're getting paid to basically do this. I mean, who gave authority? Who gave authority to have those false flag operations being done in Portland on the bridges and everything else? It was Mr. Kulingoski, and they all thought they were part of the one big plan for helping out terrorism. What a bunch of shit that was. And Mayor Potter not telling anybody about those helicopters. No. It's really stupid. The internet will also come under fire because they're now scouring websites to see if you have any hate speech on them. The thought police are here and they mean business, and they're going to put up firewalls and they're going to do all kinds of shit to keep you from doing what you want to do on the internet. That's all in store for 2009. The truth is that the United States is preparing for a homegrown security breach. If you notice the movements and the new technology the government is looking into, they're waiting to seize every opportunity to control vast amounts of people in very little time. You'll begin to see more and more indicators that the militarized police state is now in operation. 2009 will be the year that they're just going to come around and say, hey, you need us, you better be able to handle having tanks down your street. There's also going to be a terrorism drill that's going to be happening on the day of the inauguration. How many people know what happens when they do these false flag terror drills? 9/11 was a drill. The London bombing was a drill. The Madrid bombing was a drill. They were all drills, and every drill resulted in death. Because they didn't believe that it was really happening, because, oh, it's a drill, it's an exercise. Well, now they're going to have an exercise. You know what an exercise is? Washington being taken out in a terrorist attack. Just like Sarah brought up with the Book of Honor. They're preparing that during the transition, during the inauguration, there may be an attack on Obama or an attack on Bush. Someone's going to try and disrupt it. And, you know, better safe than sorry, yes. But the whole idea here is that they are scrambling for some homegrown breach. Now, why would the government be afraid of homegrown terrorists? Because they pissed us off enough to have them. Okay? There are people out there that are just pissed off enough that one thing will set them off. They find a bazooka and start shooting. Like Falling Down, that movie Falling Down with Michael Douglas. Another thing too that is interesting is that the war effort is going to be continuing to create a harmful environment in the United States. It seems to be happening a lot now. Speaking of the environment, I just wanted to point something out once and for all. The applications of weapons, and this is a graph that I found about this, the applications of weapons, the destruction of structures and oil fields, fires, military transport movements, and chemical spraying are all examples of the destroying impact that the war may have on environment. Air, water, and soil are being polluted by the war effort. Man and animal are being killed. Numerous health effects occur among those still living. We see people who are being born with small arms and no lips and no eyes. We have reported also during 2008, it looks as if the environment will suffer a blow due to the biological attacks, depleted uranium breakdowns, and disease brought to the U.S. from the Middle East. This is all being considered. And this is all going to be a part of what you're going to be hearing in 2009. Another thing you're going to hear in 2009, this is going to be very popular, and I'll tell you about this. First of all, I want to say that the HARP project is working, and yes, they are using it to communicate with submarines, communicate with Army vehicles and Marine vehicles and Navy vehicles. They're using it, and they're using the lasers and the electricity to burn the atmosphere. It causes jet streams to shift, meaning that we're going to have crazy weather, and of course they're going to blame it on global warming. But what's fascinating about that whole scenario is that in 2009 you will learn that global warming, man-made global warming, is bullshit. It is bullshit. And they're going to come out, it's already now being announced in Europe, that we were taken. That many people were fooled, that it was a political scam, like we reported here from the Iron Mountain readings that we did here, about the organized ecological threat. Global warming is not real, it's not happening, and people are beginning to wise up to it. I was just reading the other day, in fact I was reading in the Telegraph in the UK, they were pointing out a number of things. First of all, the reason why global warming is not working is that the world temperatures have been dropping in a way wholly unpredicted by all those computer models which have been used for global warming purposes. Everything's gotten colder, not hotter. Okay? I mean, the whole northern part of the United States is buried in snow. Christmas sucked. Nobody got their presents. Santa Claus didn't come, although he was escorted by planes.
Came to my house.
Did good for you. Last winter the temperatures plummeted as well. This winter they plummeted, just like every other time. I mean, it's not changing. The weather is not getting warmer. In fact, they're saying it's getting colder. That we're having a cooling time. Secondly, 2008 was the year when they actually came down with a scientific consensus saying at the United Nations that there is no global warming. This is taken from the United Nations website. There is no global warming, period, it says in the first sentence. Period. So what do they do to change things? They call it climate change. If you hear it now, it's not global warming, it's climate change. Yes, the climate's changing, but it's not changing the way they told us it is. So it's kind of like newspeak, okay? You're getting half the story. You're getting a half lie and half truth being told to you. Third, as banks have collapsed, you notice that people don't give a shit about green because green fatigue is set in and the greenwash costs too much to continue putting out to the American people, especially when it's bullshit. So that's another reason why they're going to put the kibosh on global warming in 2009. But of course, storm clouds still gather. And like weatherman, we can see trends with highs and lows in the forecast for the future. 2009 will be the year of apocalyptic chaos with people leaving as fast as they arrive. It is destined to be this way because that's how chaos works. The stars are saying so, the numbers show that they are. Even if you don't get it, it doesn't matter. That's what people believe, and that's what's going to happen. Because if you have that going through the social consciousness, it will go towards that. And it moves us in ways you can't even fathom. You know, the spiritual makeup of our country has deteriorated, and therefore a deteriorated social group brings about deteriorating social disasters, if you will. Some of the predictions I've seen, I'm beginning to notice this, the pendulum swings the other way. I happen to believe that the euro will fall so hard in the economy coming that many countries will decide if they really want to be a part of the European Union or not. There's going to be a lot of people pissed off about this. That's one thing I see, because I was noticing how the pendulum was swinging and how, Gordon Brown and all of his people are all happy to announce that the New World Order is about to take place, but you know what? That's going to just sour. People are tired of hearing about it. They call it the New World Order, they're coming around saying it's not going to be there. Also, I have a feeling that Dubai is being built up as a paradise only to be destroyed, and the American interests there be destroyed as well, bringing about a whole new face to the war in the Middle East. I mean, Dubai has been built up, and it continues to be built up, and it's beautiful, but I have a feeling this is a big setup. Put our American interests all there in Dubai and watch them all crumble down. A huge, horrible attack, and we get all pissed off about it. I mean, I just see that happening. I don't know if it will or not, but I see something going on like that where American interests are really, really going to be taken down. And that's going to really harm the economy even more. Businesses that are targeted there, everybody's moving to Dubai, and it's not a good move. Also, the airline industry looks like it's going to be having some problems too, some turbulence ahead. I think that the holiday season basically killed them with the snow, and everybody has been suffering. They've been suffering, and a lot of people can't make ends meet because of the fact that they were counting on that last Christmas push, and it's not happening for people. And you've heard the cars going down, the airline industry will be the next. Transportation gets hit hard because people can't afford to fly. They haven't got jobs. Now, 2009 is a year when you hear all sorts of people claiming that Obama will have an assassination attempt. Yeah, of course he will, because he's the president. And everybody wants to get a cap at the first black president of the United States. Well, he's going to be protected. My belief is that I think George W. Bush should be afraid when he gets out of office. Not Obama. Obama is the child we all want to succeed. The son of a bitch that's getting away with murder may be the one that's going to be in the crosshairs. And of course, Papa Bush, the head reptilian of them all, is probably going to croak next year. And I hope he does. Because the guy is probably the man that's been running all of the horrible things in the background from the shadow governments on down. Their philosophies have been around since the times of Hitler. Prescott Bush tried to take over this country in the 1930s. George H.W. Bush was running things after the Kennedy assassination for the CIA. He probably was involved with the Kennedy assassination himself. He put in his cronies, and then, of course, when he was there as the vice presidential candidate, or the vice president himself, Ronald Reagan gets assassinated, or attempted assassination. And then what happens? He's so incapacitated that he has to run the country under some clandestine shadow government. It's obvious that this has been going on. It's been a Bush-Clinton world for a long period of time. So now the new homeboy's in power, and we hope it does well. So please, I'm not going to say that he's going to get assassinated. I'm not even going to push the assassination attempt button because it's already been pushed. And it would just be, stupid to say that, But yeah, I think that those involved with what went on for the past 8 years are going to have to worry, and they're going to have to go into hiding. Because they're the ones that were causing all this problem in this country. And they've been involved with this for a long period of time. And if things weren't bad enough, some Russian professor says the United States is ending. So, who gives a shit? He's just a Russian, right? Comrade, Soviet, whatever they're going to call him now. So anyway.
Whatever, they're smarter than us.
Perhaps the devastation that we're hearing about and read about at home may create a reason to individually shape a world that's free from the Armageddon-prone leaders who have seen the last 8 years, that we've seen in the last 8 years.
Hey, if it was Armageddon...
Okay, if you want to say something, say it in the microphone, okay?
Hey.
Say it in the microphone, please. I'm broadcasting, dude.
You're fucking awesome.
Thank you.
By the way, you're awesome.
Thank you.
But if it was Armageddon, we would have fucking went through Armageddon already. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
We would have already been there.
We've been there, done that. How many times? How many times?
I would say fucking 10 years ago.
You think so?
Yeah.
10 years ago?
Yeah, 10 years ago.
My father would tell me it was the 1940s, but, it's...
Well, I mean, no, if you want to go way back.
Yeah, that's why Valkyrie's playing in the theater, so you can hear about Hitler.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool, thank you. I I think that what we should do is we should shape a world free of these leaders. Yes, hello, I can see you there.
Thanks. I'm putting my rig up for sale. I'm canceling my insurance. With 3 million people working on the highways and the bridges, there's going to be no place to drive.
Okay. Well, you know, that's one thing you can't predict is the weather is bad and construction will always get in the way of the weather being bad. So that's so true. You know, the future doesn't have to be as bleak as I painted. I mean, I'm just saying that the 9s are the chaoses and the 11s are the new beginnings. And the new beginnings are the new opportunities. The new opportunities can be there for you if you just look for them. You know, as I said, 2009 is going to be like deja vu in some respects. You're going to be going, haven't we been here before? Haven't we seen this before? Oh, I get this game. I played it back in the 1970s. I played it back in the 1980s. I get the game now. Oh, yeah, the Russians are the bad guys. The Chinese are the bad guys. We're the good guys again. And they're remaking Red Dawn.
Yeah.
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 Thank you, man. See. With death at your door, sometimes it gives you a reason to feel better about the life that you want to live.
Yep.
What I mean by that is that if you're looking at the paper every day and you're seeing things that are just really bleak and sad and weird and everything else, maybe you should take the time to realize that while you're breathing and standing there reading that you're lucky to be alive, and you should take the time to do those things that you've been putting off. To find that person. To find that person that you love and tell them you love them. To find that child and take some time with that child.
Yeah.
Now, I think, yeah, if somebody wants to applaud that, that's good. You know, I'm just not up here talking because we're in a library. But seriously, take the time to get to know your neighbors, your neighborhood. Find time to find a family outside of your family, make friends with them, and support what they do. And the reason why that's important is because the breakdown is not in what they're telling us. The breakdown is what we're believing.
Yep.
Don't believe the shit that they're telling you because it's shit.
Absolutely.
You can sit down if you want. Or do you have anything else to say? You have anything else to say?
No.
Okay.
I'm right behind you, man.
I appreciate
You're
that.
talking the truth.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. There's no apology.
You want me to leave?
No, I appreciate that. No, you can sit in the audience, but if you have something else to say, I mean, we're just broadcasting. It's okay. It's okay. Well, that's okay. And no, you're fine. Don't worry.
Radio waves.
That's radio. Yeah.
Fucking radio.
Anyway, what you need to be is you need to be somebody who makes things happen. Oh, he's mad now because he can't stand the microphone. I'm sorry. There are a lot of people that like to give up too, and I've been there too. I've given up, and I've given up, and I've also decided to live again. And I think we all need to think about that too. Yeah, we do.